Hi, everyone, and welcome to this next episode of our Expert Talk Sales. Our topic of the day is account growth, but more specifically, account-based prospecting. I'm really excited to introduce our guest for the day, Tom Slocum, who has many titles and responsibilities to his name. To name just a few, Tom is a co-founder at Outbound SOS. He also recently just took on a pretty significant responsibility at RevGenius as their community leader. I only know this because of a post and a picture that you shared on LinkedIn. Very cool. And moreover, Tom is also a co-host with Jeff Swan on the podcast Fill the Funnel. So backing all of his roles and responsibilities are his 14 years of sales experience. He's now leveraging this knowledge to guide sales organizations on how to adapt to the sales environment of today. So thank you once again, Tom, for taking the time to join us.
Absolutely. I'm very excited, and thank you for the intro.
Just a quick protocol to anyone that's listening. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask Tom, please post them in the comment section and we will do our best to address them later on in our conversation. So we always allow the guests to introduce themselves and take the floor. So please tell us, Tom, who you are, what you do, and also what your company or companies do. But more importantly, we want to hear how you became the person that you are today.
Absolutely. So yeah, I've been in sales for over 14 years. I've done outbound my whole life. Everything from, cold calling been my forte. The past year, I've really, grown and blew up as a professional, thanks to diving in and building a brand on LinkedIn and joining communities such as RevGenius that we talked about, right? Right now, I just recently left my 9-to-5, went out into the entrepreneurship life with my partner, Jeff Swan, where we are building Outbound SOS, which is exactly what you said, right? Helping sales organizations and reps really understand this landscape of today and change the way that they prospect that leads to consistent results. And then helping companies really build out the structure of their sales development team from operations to their messaging, so they can set their reps up for success from the moment of first hire or as they grow. So it's just been a lot of fun just giving back. For the past year, that's what I've done on LinkedIn, is just trying to share my knowledge, help up and coming, sales development reps be better at, helping empower these reps. I also took on a bigger role within RevGenius as a community manager. RevGenius is a Slack community or a community for sales professionals all over. We have about 17,000 members from marketing, RevOps, customer success, all in there. And so I've been in there a year. I built out Rev League, which is a private Slack community for SDRs and AEs, anybody really in the trenches, right? Prospecting, really going after it. And we just moved that to 2.0. We just launched last week. So I've been focusing on that, really helping RevGenius community members be seen, heard, valued, allow that community to be there for them. And then launching out this company to just help organizations, get better at prospecting in today's world. So that's a little bit about me, doing a lot. My hands are all over the place. Everybody sees me everywhere. But, I'm having the time of my life and excited to be here with you all this morning and talk a little bit about this prospecting method, account-based.
It sounds like you're really scattered across a lot of different passion projects and different activities. So before we get started really deep into the discussion today, could you please explain to myself and also to everybody listening what we mean by account-based prospecting?
Yeah, I actually didn't up until recently realize this wasn't common. This is how I've helped organizations build. This is what I've worked under for most of my sales career. But account-based prospecting is just very highly personalized, multi-channel threading to an organization instead of an individual. So usually, you might target lead-based prospecting, which is, you're just targeting the stakeholders individually. You're going and targeting that. Where account-based is, you're really getting and targeting a set high amount of valued accounts, like big logos, named accounts, and you treat each account as a market of one. So let's say I want to go after Home Depot. I'm going to go after Home Depot as a whole. I'm going to figure out the personas within that organization. I'm going to use multi-channel processes, and I'm going to target and pursue, that at that level versus just a single contact at Home Depot and just put all my eggs in that one basket. I'm going to really try to explore the entire account as a whole and figure out my best point of entry within that high valued account.
Okay, so if we dive deeper more into the processes and the infrastructure, let's say, behind account-based prospecting, you brought up lead-based prospecting. So I want to ask first off, what are the main differences, again, between account-based and lead-based?
So again, with lead-based prospecting, you're really focusing on just leads, people. You're focused on people. I had this experience at my most recent company that I had just walked away from. Is when I entered there to help them build out their structure, they were lead-based prospecting. So the entire CRM wasn't aligned. Everybody was just working off of individuals. So, there was no accounts. So I could be calling, let's say Bob at Home Depot in marketing, but I'm focused on just Bob, where my AE or somebody else in the company might be focusing on Jill over at Home Depot that works in operations. We're not talking to each other. We're not communicating very well because everybody's just focused on one person. Mm-hmm. So we're just targeting that single contact or lead within the company. And I might book the meeting with Bob, but then when I go to build it out, I find out that, well, wait, I'm the AE. I'm talking to Jill already. And I'm like, you're what? And they're like, yeah, I'm over here talking to Jill. And now we're both targeting something and weren't really communicative. So it's really, hard when you're doing that lead-based model where, like we mentioned in account-based prospecting, you're building out the whole holistic view of that account. Mm-hmm. You're saying, I don't want to just penetrate the persona. I want to find the account or the companies that I can actually help. So Home Depot as a whole is the account that we want to get a meeting with, not just Bob. Bob happens to be a part of the process, but Bob's not my target. My target is how can I help Home Depot and use these stakeholders within the account to really, personalize that journey for them all and bring them all in together. So now when I'm going after Home Depot in my CRM, I have all 8 contacts there. I have everybody there. I see the whole org chart. And so does my account executive. So does my operations and my marketing, that we're now all holistically on the same page of where we're at in Home Depot. And how we're targeting that method. So, it's just, way better because more the merrier, right? With the approach of this account-based prospecting, sales reps really get to target, what they're going after. They're going to look more at what we call TAM, which is like your total addressable market. That's how you're going to find out what these accounts are. And then you're going to use your ICP to drill down into that. So using those two, you're going to find out which high valued accounts you really need to target and then start telling your story, throughout that account.
Okay. Something that I really liked that you took out of it was, or that you mentioned there, was that you really take the whole account as basically its own market. Like you can go so deep into the due diligence, the research, and you can propose also much better solutions and catered solutions for them. So it seems as though you'll get better engagement if you're so much more deeply integrated and engaging with that one, let's say, Home Depot account. Okay. From a operating perspective, what does account-based prospecting look like?
So, you've got to first look at your total addressable market, right? And that is your demand for your product or solution that you're coming out with. So you have to look at what that looks like. And that's going to help you understand which industry and which company that you really want to begin targeting. So that's by, looking at, which companies are most likely going to become your customer. Mm-hmm. And then reverse engineering that, right? And figuring out how you're going to go to those customers and then, go that way. Another way to do it is to create your ideal customer profile from scratch and then match whatever that buyer looks like to those companies, right? So then you're going to go into that and say, okay, these people are here. I'm looking at it from a person aspect. How does that align to the companies I want to target? And then vice versa. I want to look at the companies that are most likely to buy from me and then drill down into the people within that company that would most likely buy our product. So you want to look at all of that and filter through that noise and then really figure out those high quality accounts that would be interested. So total addressable market, looking at those companies, or design your ideal customer profile, and then begin targeting and looking at those stakeholders, and then begin tailoring your messages. So that's kind of the operational piece that you want to start looking at is if you're going to build this from scratch, or let's say Q1 of this next year, you want to try this strategy within your company or your team, you're ever growing, you're getting larger, more hands are in the cookie jar, then this is a great process to start looking at and taking out, your addressable market, your ICP, target those stakeholders, and then, begin kind of building out your persona messaging on how you're going to attack that account. And the best way to do it is if you've already been going to market already, is just evaluating your pipeline so far. Who's won? Who have you closed in your company already? What made them win? And how did you get that deal? And then also, who were the people that were involved in that process, and reverse engineer all of that to then create this perfect, account or person that you would, target in the future, and what that persona would look like. So that's kind of the process of doing all of that, and building out most of that process so you can then, implement this.
That's some really practical advice for our listeners. Thanks. It's so cool that there's also just different perspectives or different approaches that you can have to this. It's not just a one way kind of approach.
Yeah, it's really open, right, in your own company on how you can do it and what's going to be best. When you strip it down to the basics, it's just that, right? Find the companies that you want to target, and start building out how you're going to get in there as a whole view, not just, hey, I'm just going to go after people. Because if you just go after people, you have no idea what companies you're going to go at, that are going to win, right? I'm just looking at anybody and everybody that would be willing to drink Coca-Cola, right? Okay, I don't care where they're from. I don't know anything. I'm just looking at somebody who's down to drink Coca-Cola versus, hey, I want to look at companies that would, offer Coca-Cola to their people, right, in their kitchens. Now you could tell you're going after a larger, more high value approach, and you're going after, why close one person on buying a 6-pack or whatever for Coca-Cola when I can go after the whole company and get hundreds of sales and a more high ticket value sale, because I'm bringing in all the stakeholders. When we move to account-based marketing, right, especially if you have multiple solutions, it's really great too, because I can bring in Bob from marketing, I can bring in Phil from operations, I can bring in Sally, right, and bring in the whole team. And now I'm selling, a $300,000 deal versus the whole time I was prospecting, I only ever talked to Bob only, and all I did was get 50K because of him in marketing, right? When instead, had I been targeting the whole account and really figuring out how I can win that account as a whole, I could have had a 300K deal because I got 50K from almost everybody, and they found a solution that solved their whole problem. So that's the importance of why you would go at an account level too, is find other areas to upsell, cross-sell, and find a higher addressable market for yourself.
It sounds also like that one of the benefits of account-based marketing is because you're engaging with these different stakeholders and they have different objectives. Mm-hmm. Account-based marketing also sounds like a sustainable sales strategy, not sustainable as in green sustainability, but as in more of a long-term strategy that if you really hunker down and research into this one specific account, you can just keep going back to them if you're treating them properly, obviously.
It's 100%, right? Think about your customer success team when you hand that account off, right? And you send it over, you have a real relationship with the company as a whole. You are part of their team now. You know them. And then when the customer success comes in, they know the needs and the wants and the pains of everybody that was involved in that decision-making process. Most of the time you'll see ops come over and close with one point of contact on it. Mm-hmm. Well, what does that do for me? What if I can't get a hold of that person? We have to renew or something goes wrong. I only ever have to work off of that one person because we did it off a lead-based and just closed Bob. When had the SDRs and the account executives really dove down and drilled down into some of these bigger end accounts, we could have had a whole org under there, right? I know Bob. I also know Jan. I also know Tom. And I can call them all up and have an honest conversation about their account. and their whole holistic view versus my hands are only with Bob and that's it. So you reduce churn, you have more upsell opportunity, cross-sell opportunity, you build a longer lasting relationship with the prospect and customer. They feel a little bit more white gloved, and their messages are different, right? You're going to market with different messaging with that because you're persona basing it, you're personalizing it. And then you think about, when you're prospecting an account, you see this all the time from SDRs. Let's say we go after, a small mid-market account with only 3 people in it. If we're just going off a lead based, what if you sent the same email to all 3 of those people? People talk in their offices or working from home now, like, hey, did you get a new message from Tom? Yeah, I did. Look, here's mine. Oh, well, I got the same thing. Oh, wait, what? Where in account-based marketing, you're targeting it a little bit different. You're giving a little bit of personalization, but all 3 of us are going to hear the same story in the same way, but in our language. So now, Maxine, you're going to get something different. I'm going to get something different. But yet when we come to talk at our break or lunch and say, hey, I got this company reach out to me today. I really enjoyed the email. You're going to be like, oh, me too. He had talked to me about, and I'm like, wait, they can do that too. And you're like, wait, they can do that too. And now we want to work together to find this product versus these, standardized messaging. And we don't really know what's going on.
So this account-based marketing seems like a very resource-heavy strategy. And obviously we need to have that marriage between sales and marketing, which is where sales enablement steps in, which is our main topic at PDA Group and something that we always tie into our discussions here. So in your opinion, how can sales enablement support our dream team of sales and marketing, and obviously also customer success, product development, all these different customer facing departments? How can enablement support all of them to impact this kind of prospecting?
Great question. And there's thousands of different ways, that you could potentially put it together and get the support from the departments and really build that dream team. But the number one thing is deploying the right technology to help your team do this. There's only so much that an SDR and an AE can do in combining this messaging and going to market. But when enablement and ops and everybody else is in the same, buy-in, you can really bring in the right tech to make it scalable, make it effective, and empower them to actually get it, actually penetrate these accounts. So when we did it at my last place, when we first made the change, it was all manual. And it was up to the SDR and the AE to kind of talk weekly, kind of figure out what they could do and just see if it would work. Once we were able to see that it could work at a smaller scale, we were able to then bring in the resources. So we started looking at tools that would help us filter out our results within our CRM, right? So where can you even begin to start drilling down and filtering the results from this target market? So you can use like Sales Navigator or Zoom Info or any of the other lead data tools to help you drive that and look at that target market. So enablement can bring in tools, right? They can evaluate what they can do to support the mission and enable you to scale this because there's only so much you can do. You've got to look at a lot of stuff in account-based market prospecting. You've got to look at, reports. You've got to really build out your CRM to even align with this. When I first joined the last company, I had to restructure their entire CRM. They were literally just doing lead-based prospecting. And as we grew, it got so convoluted in the CRM, and half the meetings we were booking were being duplicated between the AEs and the SDRs. So we had to just sit down and scrub all of that out, drill down with operations, and really my sales op girl, right, really drill down into the system, start creating accounts, grouping everything together. So it's really just being there to support the mission by giving them tech, giving them the workflow within the system to help them. And so that's really the best way that, it's about utilizing the tech is the first and foremost. It's just empowering them to do so. You also look at marketing. Marketing can really help in getting feedback from, prospects or customers that you've already worked with, trying to figure out what won the deals, what was some of the challenges they had and how your company came in and saved it. So you've got marketing kind of supporting how you're going to go and tailor your messages now. So we started bringing in our VP of marketing to start looking at personas. So he started building out personas for the team with me. So that way we knew how to tailor and leverage our messaging a little bit more. You've got then, who else was involved? You had customer success, where we started getting case studies, right? We started interviewing the customer success on some of the pains that our accounts, our leads were having, and how we were winning them. And so when you have all those pieces working, then now the SDR and AE can actually go to market on this whole account-based strategy, because they know what they're going to do. They now know how to tailor, because you can go into it blindly and pick all the stakeholders in the world, but like, you don't want to talk to the manager. You're not trying to talk to, just influencers or champions. You really need to figure out what's that dream org chart that's going to win the deal. And the best way to find that is working with customers you already have won, or looking at your market, and building out that ideal customer profile to figure out what it would look like in that magic world, and then start aligning it as best as you can by drilling down that info. So it's all about working together to create the messaging, create the tech, and enable the team to really be able to do this at scale, and have a system that helps scale them to do so.
I just want to point out that one thing that you said, the tech really will be super important, especially with collecting lots of data, particularly with accounts. If you're working with multiple people within single accounts, you need to be able to find a way to store it in a convenient way, in a centralized way, so that because you're not doing account-based marketing as one person. You're doing it as several people within your sales organization. So everybody needs to be able to come in, find the information they need for their specific stakeholder. And tech is super important to have that organized and found easily in one place. So thanks for outlining that.
It's the most crucial part, in all honesty. You can't do it any other way. So if you're going to look at account-based marketing, you've got to have a little bit of budget to put tech behind it. You're going to have to make some hard changes in some of your CRM. You might have to change your whole CRM, right? It might not even be compatible to do account-based marketing. It might not be able to have that flow you need. So you might have to do that. So tech is probably the most crucial part. And then once you get that and start having the right data, you can start breaking it down. Then you need to look at your messaging. And that's where your customer success and your marketing and your account executives are going to come in and start figuring out that tailored message.
Account-based marketing sounds like quite a hefty load to take on. So, I mean, the buzzwords culture and coaching are thrown around all over sales organizations and sales communities. So how would you frame the ideal culture, and then the ideal coaching culture to promote success in account-based prospecting?
Good one. And we did this, right? It was painful. The AEs were not happy at first, right? When we started changing some of the system around, started making changes. You want to build a culture that is communicative and open, not closed-minded. I mean, just be open to hear stuff. It doesn't mean you have to take it, and it doesn't mean you have to enact it or make a decision on it. But your team should feel comfortable to be able to express that they might not like this process, or something isn't working. You just have to create a culture of feedback. There needs to be a culture of a feedback loop going all the time throughout this, because one, it's going to be new, and there are going to be some pains, right? Like, as an AE, am I calling only these people? Oh, as an SDR, do I only call these people? Like, where, what do we do? And so it's going to be hard to adjust. So it has to be, a culture of feedback. Whether it's right or wrong, whether, you're going to do anything about the feedback, it just needs to be able to be expressed. So building that. Coaching, you want to be, checking in with everybody pretty regularly throughout the process. I always had, the biggest part was it's not the whole company that really needs this feedback and this coaching, it's the AE and the SDR, right? That's where it really comes down. And that's what we had to do, is we set up weekly meetings with the account executive and the sales development rep to constantly talk about what they're doing in this account-based process, right? Like, where are you at? How many emails are being opened? Let's talk this through. Hey, did you get a hold of this one? Where are you at with this one? And talking about the messaging, right? Because think about it this way too, is when we would break up the process, we'd have the account executives go after the C-suite, and then we would have the SDR go after the influencers and the champions, right? Well, if you guys don't communicate, then you're not telling a great story. right? The AE is going to do their thing. The SDR is going to do their thing. And that's going to destroy the whole account-based point. You have to align. So meeting weekly to talk about your messaging and aligning it, and saying, hey, I'm going after the C-suite on this topic this week. Great. I'll go after the influencers or champions and tie back to that message. So you're not just going out there and just prospecting. You have a plan. So you need to build that kind of environment of feedback and conversation and coaching, to have weekly meetings, be checking in with your SDRs, set clear, definitive metrics as to what's going to make this program be successful, and what that environment and culture would look like. Are we going to look at, number of emails that are being opened and replied to? Okay, that could be one filter. Number of meetings that have been scheduled, that are happening. Is that happening? What is the lifetime value of that contract, right? That you're getting? Is it worth it? You got to start looking at all this stuff. And the best way is to build an environment that coaching is going to go through this. We're going to be talking a lot. We're going to be communicating a lot, and then creating that feedback loop in some way, so you guys can continuously talk. And then what we also did was implemented a bi-weekly full team meeting. So we brought in marketing, ops, leadership, and then the sales. We would, coach you and talk about what's been going on. We'll be able to have marketing on the phone and actually say, hey, the emails that you're sending out or the things that you're putting out aren't aligning with what we're putting out, or, we need to see the days that you're scheduling emails out and when we're going to do ours. So it really brought them together to do a bi-weekly meeting of the whole team, share the results, let the SDRs express what they're seeing, let the AEs, and everybody kind of talk, and then adapt the process as we went.
So in a few words, it sounds like you need to build a company culture and a sales organization culture that's receptive to other people and to information coming from all directions. And also a culture of unity, that if you're working with one specific account with lots of different stakeholders, as a sales organization, you should also kind of take a similar approach of, this is all of us doing this together. So we need to come together and share everything that we know.
Yep. That's really it. And I think a lot of cultures don't do that. There are a lot of silos, right? They're broken. Marketing has no idea, their objectives aren't aligned. They're doing their own thing. Yeah. Ops is doing their own thing, thinking that, they're pulling the right levers, and they're putting in the right pieces. And it's like, they couldn't be more far off, things like that. So you have to create that unity that we're going to market together, right? We're a whole force. Everybody matters in some fashion, and we need to align what that looks like, especially in account-based prospecting, because it is so personalized and you are messaging a whole bunch of people. If you mess up with just Bob in lead-based prospecting, that's okay, right? Because you have 8 other people you can call and figure that out, but you're not even targeting them yet until you figure out what happens with Bob. Where in account-based prospecting, you're hitting the whole company. So you got to be careful, because you might end up at the water cooler where me and you were talking about the same email from this company because you didn't personalize it. We both got the same one. I don't want to work with somebody like that. Yeah. So you have to be very, very clear and communicative when you're going through this strategy, or just like you are to the company, you need to do it to yourself, like you said.
I think that's a pretty great closer or way to end our discussion for today. Just want to be mindful of time. But really, thank you, Tom, for taking the time to share all these insights. I definitely know that I took a few notes while you were speaking. Is there anything just shortly that you think we haven't covered in ABP or account-based prospecting?
No, I think, it just sums up into 3 things: people, process, and technology, right? We want to look at the whole thing, and just make sure you align all of that so that you can focus on making this a smooth transition and going to market with a strategy.
Awesome. Just before we close out today, are there any great resources that you'd like to recommend for our listeners? Or there's anybody that you'd recommend that we follow on LinkedIn, or any books that we should be reading or listening to, or podcasts?
Oh, so many resources, so much noise. There's a lot out there. Look at technology when you're trying to do this process. I can endorse a few like Outreach, Outplay, SalesLoft, right? You want an engagement platform, right? You want to look at something like that. Outreach and Outplay are some of my favorites. That's what I would use, and that's what I brought on at my companies. Then you want to look, at trying to think of some great people to follow that talk a little bit about account-based, marketing and things like that. I would suggest Nick Bennett on LinkedIn. Nick is a field marketer, probably one of the best. He's built a brand this past year, just educating people on how to go to market and do some things when it comes to marketing. So I highly suggest you check him out. Books, Fanatical Prospecting by Jed Blunt is a great one. It'll teach you a little bit about, marketing. Skip Miller is a good one. And then podcast, you can always listen to my own, Fill the Funnel. We talk a lot about these strategies. Jeff and I, we talk about how to do top of the funnel activities and what co-founders and reps are doing to find success in some of this model. But yeah, that's what I got as far as a few resources I can drop.
What's the best way for anybody to get in touch with you, Tom, if they want to ask more questions?
Gosh, I got LinkedIn is probably pretty good. LinkedIn's good. Like if you want to get me in the comments and stuff, my LinkedIn inbox is pretty bad. But you can find me on some of the Slack communities. That's probably the easiest way is if you join Rev Genius. I'm in there all the time, 99% of my day. You can email me. All my contact info is on LinkedIn. So I'm pretty accessible, which is a problem. So people will know, and most of my audience knows, like, hey, Tom's always somewhere. Anywhere I am, he probably is too. So I can find him. So any platform, anything you're on, just type in my name and I'm probably somewhere to be found. But yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, probably that's the number one option. And then, finding me in Rev Genius and then just emailing me is some great ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Thank you. Again, once more, appreciate that you took the time to have this discussion with me. I definitely learned a lot. I hope the listeners did too. But just a short announcement before we close off for today. For all of our German-speaking audience, there will be a Sales Enablement Summit, DACH, in November on the 18th and on the 21st, which is hosted by PDA Group. You can register to attend the summit on our website at pdagroup.net/de. And on these days, you'll be hearing from speakers such as Tamara Schenk, Thomas Helwig, Stefan Funk, Dagmar Eisenbach, several more, and obviously, of course, our very own Britta Lorenz. So thank you all, everybody. Tom, everybody listening again for tuning in, and hope to see you at the summit.